hear from Laura, but I'm not sure that we do have a quorum. Okay, this is a regular meeting of the Needham Historical Commission on December 11th, 2023. This meeting is being held on Zoom as permitted by the currently revised open meeting law, which expires in March 2025. Because this meeting is remote, all votes will be taken by roll call. If members of the public are recognized to speak, we ask that they state their name and address for the minutes. I will now take the roll. Megan Anderson. Okay. Joe Morrell.
Present.
Leah Wolkowicz-Cordy.
Present.
Jeff Heller.
Present.
Marshall Davis. Okay, we have a quorum with one absence. All right, this is a very brief agenda today. So the first item on the agenda is the minutes of the October meeting. I would note for the record that we did not meet in November. Does anybody have any comments or changes or questions about the minutes for October? Okay, hearing none, I will take a vote. Move that we accept the minutes of the October meeting as written. Joe?
Second.
Okay, I'll hear a vote. Megan?
Yes.
Aye. Joe?
Aye.
Yes. Aye.
Leah?
Aye.
Aye.
Jeff? Okay, Marshall?
Am I muted?
And the chair votes aye as well, so that the minutes are accepted, a vote of 6-0 with one absence. Okay, the only two items on the agenda, unless anybody has something new to bring up, are a couple of updates. And the first is an update on the Town Seal Review and Branding Committee meeting. The first meeting was on November 8th, and there will be another meeting, the second meeting, this Wednesday on December 13th. And briefly, the purpose, and thank you, Miles, for circulating these and making them so succinct, just in the nick of time. The purpose is to make changes to the town seal to ensure appropriateness and historical accuracy, as well as develop a new branding for the town of Needham to use for unofficial town business. And that is, right now, the seal is used for everything from official business to, logos on jackets. So the intent is to have a separate logo that could be used for these non-official purposes, and then an official town seal used for official town business. We are going to hire a consultant who will have several tasks in concert with the committee. And the first is assessment of the current conditions, assess the current town seal, any uses, the inventory of uses for the present seal, any existing marketing materials, etc. Identify stakeholder groups that would be using the seal and or the logo, interview key stakeholders, and then do research among our peer towns to see what they use for town seals and also what they use for municipal branding. Design and implement a design survey, to design and implement a survey targeted to Needham residents and stakeholders to gather input regarding how the town is currently perceived and what vision the participants have for the future, determine what special and unique aspects of Needham should be highlighted in branding, and determine who within the community might be interested in participating in a focus group. We're going to discuss the goals for the branding and then start taking start reviewing the design options. That includes, what visual items should be included, both in terms of, how to represent the town, but also maybe what features of the town are included, not included. And the ultimate, as I said, the ultimate end is to deliver not only a town seal that we feel represents the town accurately and appropriately, but then also a second design, a logo that could be used in more informal situations. And this really, the first discussion, we primarily got around to some assessment of the current seal, some discussion of what other communities are doing, and then just some batted around very few ideas of, what kinds of things we would consider including and what kinds of things we thought made Needham special. So this is, an ongoing conversation, as I said, and the next meeting will be this coming Wednesday. Marshall is also on this committee with me. Marshall represents the Historical Commission. I represent the Needham History Center, and Kevin Keene is the chair for the select board. Marshall, did you have any additional comments or observations?
No, the first meeting was very preliminary in nature, and it looks like this upcoming meeting is going to get into the elements that should be considered in terms of hiring a consultant and what the consultant's project would consist of and what our participation might be in that process. So I think this next meeting will be much more substantive.
I think so. And I will, as I said, Miles did circulate a document to the committee about the goals and the scope, and I'll attach a copy of that to the information I send out to all of you. Does anybody else have any comments or questions about this process or about this committee? Yeah, Jeff?
I want to say that, not to go off on a tangent, but I spoke up and disagreed with the select board's vote to rename Columbus Day. And I just don't feel like, as much as we recognize different, we look differently upon history and our mistakes and other people's mistakes, I don't feel like we should ignore history. We should maybe make a caveat, and use it as a learning example. So if in the further discussion, I know we would like to eliminate the Indian, the Indians part of the logo, but the seal. But I mean, this is a town that evolved from that to a farming community. So as that discussion goes on, let's not put technology in there or just put the town hall or something like that, which is a more modern history, and forget of Needham's history as a long-standing farming community before the trains arrived here. So I just think about keeping that historical perspective. We're all too far to forget history just because we don't want to be associated with bad things that happened part of our history. Can't hear you, Gloria.
I'm sorry. It's a good observation. A large part of the discussion circulated around, whether, like many towns, Needham has a Native American depicted on their seal. Like many towns, it's usually in a sort of receptive posture. The committee includes a member of the Natick Praying Indian community, Amber Autumn Moon, who's a daughter of the late Chief Carringhands. And a good part of the discussion, revolved around the fact that it's not necessarily necessary, and it's not necessarily appropriate or respectful to just say, well, we shouldn't have a Native American on our seal. Let's find something else. Natick went from a and a depiction of John Elliott to a depiction of, that bridge over the falls. But it is a question of appropriate representation. The current seal, shows a wigwam, which is not a Wampanoag structure. It's not geographically accurate. It's not historically accurate. If we do want to include that event, and there's still the possibility that that will be the essence of our town seal, it should at least be done properly. So to your point, no decision has yet been made about the actual content, and no decision has yet been made about whether or not, it's going to eliminate a depiction of Native Americans, whether it's going to include it, whether it's not going to include it. But the decision was made that if this is part of the imagery, it's going to be correct, appropriate, and respectful, and not some 19th century Boston artist's vision of, what a Native American interaction must have looked like.
That woman spoke quite passionately about removing Christopher Columbus's name from the October, holiday.
That's a separate issue that we're not going to pursue in
Right.
this meeting, but
Just, I'm
regarding
just giving
the
you,
town
I'm just
seal.
letting you know about her.
Oh, yeah, no, I know.
Her
I know.
passion.
I know, I could see it. I'd see it in the other interactions I've had with her. But as regards the town seal, that is still a wide open question. The only real decision in that respect has been that if we do it, it will be done properly. Does anyone else have any questions or comments?
Thank you.
Thank you. Marshall, you muted.
Okay, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
In furtherance of Amber's participation, I interpreted what she was saying is that she did want her ancestral history appropriately represented, not to be ignored. So that's going to play a part in the decision making ultimately, I assume, in terms of what the seal might represent.
Yeah, I agree. She was, and I think there is this sort of reflexive, oh, let's just not go there reaction. But as Jeff mentioned, this is part of the history, and Amber was indeed concerned that part of the history does not get erased. So it's going to be a very interesting discussion going forward. I think it's going to be a very interesting result when we're done. Anyone else have any comments or questions?
I just had a
Joe.
quick question as it relates to the town seal, and you had mentioned it like a more of an unofficial, or not so much unofficial, but more of an informal seal. I don't know if I've ever noticed, is that common practice in municipalities to have like a letterhead that the town uses for correspondences versus like what's on like a town DPW jacket or something like that? Is that common?
I don't actually know. I know in our.
I don't know why. I mean, I guess I'd be
both.
surprised they just, the seal is a seal. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't
Well, the
use that.
seal actually has specific
It's on our website.
uses. Yeah. It has, but it does have specific uses, and it's supposed to be used for government business. So, not necessarily for, every committee and club and other use. So I mean, that's also part of the discussion.
Yeah,
Sorry?
this is the first time I've heard. This is the first time I've ever heard that in use. So I was just curious.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure how other towns do it.
If I might add a piece to this,
Sure.
Madam Chair, it is relatively common, and it's becoming more common to have, as the chair mentioned, the town seal has many specific legal uses. The town clerk holds the copy of the seal and needs to be used on certain official government documents. However, from a brand perspective and trying to message, the mission, the vision of the town itself, it's not necessarily, it is inherently a document that does not change, or a brand that does not change. So being able to put something that's approachable, that's friendly, that's expresses what we're going in. It can also be used across numerous documents to include non-required letterhead. Branding would also, I assume, include colors, fonts, certain other things that maintain standardization as well among certain town.
Marketing efforts, you know, what towns do marketing efforts. And also, you know, as Miles, Miles is an assistant to this committee and probably more well-versed in its work than even the committee members at this point. But you can change logos fairly easily, you know, if it becomes tired or outdated, or, you know, the design starts to look, you know, you can make changes quite easily. The town seal is not something that you change every day. It's not something, it's not a process that you go through frequently. And for us, it's not a process. It's been 120, almost 130 years that we've had this town seal. So, you know, it's not something that happens every day, whereas a logo presents a lot more flexibility for other purposes and uses. Jeff,
Gotcha, thank you.
anything else? No? Okay, then the other matter is an update on the Local Historic District Study Committee. I sent you all the most recent draft of the bylaw. We held a public meeting on November 15th to invite public comment on the draft, and we had exactly 0 attendees, so it was a very brief meeting. Leah is the Historical Commission's representative to that meeting, and I am the History Center's representative to that meeting. It is hoped that the draft article, we've gone through the review process with the Mass Historical Commission and the review process with Town Council, so I think, correct me, Miles, if I'm wrong, we're pretty much on our way to submitting to the warrant for Maytown meeting.
That's correct. We have one identified exceedingly minor edit having to do with capitalization of certain words. We're going to fix that up, and with the chair and clerk of that single parcel committee, submit that to the select board once they open the warrant in January.
Okay, so it looks like we are pretty well on our way to town meeting consideration. You'll see the document is about 28 or 30 pages long, but a lot of it has to do with the process of reaching the document, not so much the content of the document itself. Around page 17 or so, you'll see the sort of real material about what's going to be permitted and what's not going to be permitted in this district. But, you know, as we've said all along, Needham was never going to be one of those towns that imposed a rigid catalog of, you know, only these colors of paints and only these types of windows and only these types of, you know, roof tiles, and, you know, you can be white or off white and you can only have slate. You know, some towns are very, very picky, but that's not the kind of restrictions or conditions we would want to impose in a local historic district. We are mostly concerned with preservation of the building, so, you know, demolition and preservation of the street facing view, so that the historic and the amenity of the neighborhood is preserved, not an effort to dictate to a homeowner, you know, every decision that they make and tie their hands when they want to make changes or improvements to their house that are either, you know, necessary or cosmetic, or to their, you know, to their personal taste. So I'm hoping that this is a document that will find favor with town meeting, and I think it will go a long way to help preserve historic structures in the town. Leah, did you want to add anything to that?
I don't have anything, but it seems like Jeff had a question or a comment.
Mhm. Yeah, okay, yeah, Jeff.
Yeah, the question I have is when it goes in front of the select board for discussion, is there a plan to have for the select board to have an open comment period? I would think that would be appropriate, given it might get more attention, as to be much more visible to people before it enters for town meeting for a vote.
I don't know if there's an additional revision period.
Not a
at this
revision.
point.
Usually,
But certainly there'll be, there will be information meetings and warrant meetings. And all the various informational sessions that lead up to town meeting, and certainly. We would want to. Make those, publicize those and, make our expertise. Welcome people to ask questions and ask about the process and ask about the desired end result.
if people feel like the first time they get to discuss it or weigh in is on
Mhm.
town meeting floor, they might not be happy. So if there's
That's true, but there are a
but the
lot of
select board are used to
opportunities.
holding an open period, comment period of 2 weeks before they vote,
Mhm.
before they vote to put the bylaw on the warrant. So I think that's an important process. So
That's
people can
something
have
we
some
can
input.
raise with the select board, but certainly town meeting members have a lot of opportunities to educate themselves about the warrant articles.
But they don't. Sometimes if it's like you said, they didn't pay attention to the historical, to this study committee. They don't pay attention to historical commission. And if all of a sudden it's a warrant article, a bylaw change, and they don't feel like the select board gave it an opportunity for input, then they'll just say, "Oh, we think you're trying to slip this through without comment," and then it dies or gets delayed. So I think there should be at least a 2-week open comment period for that particular bylaw change before it ends up on the warrant docket. That would be my advice from my years of town meeting.
Okay, we could suggest that. We could suggest that to the select board as they work through the warrant approvals. Anybody else have a comment? Yeah, Marshall. Nope, you're out. There you
Can you
go.
hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, thanks. So I just had a question about the composition of the commission that's established for the district. If I read it correctly, there's at least 5 members, a minimum of 5 members, and one is a representative of the Needham History Center and Museum. One is an architect, one is a realtor, and one is a property owner in the district. Why isn't perhaps one of the members of the historical commission on that committee?
We are, it's me.
We are. It is.
And it was Don. It was
Yep.
Don on that document in the draft. It was Don who was there.
Yep.
Who's listed.
No, I don't mean on the formation of the district, but the committee that reviews any changes to the structure.
Oh, the historic district commission.
Correct.
Itself. I don't believe the structure of that has been settled at this point.
Well, the 4 point. I mean,
I know the sort of best advice from the Mass Historical Commission is that they should not be. It should not be also your historical commission.
Okay, all right. I just was curious.
We as a body should not also be the Historic District Commission. But I think there is a certain amount of flexibility in the selection of the actual district commission once it's constituted.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, and we
About that.
haven't gotten anywhere close to that point yet.
Okay.
Miles' brow is furrowed. Correct me, go ahead. You're muted.
I'm on mute. So
Okay.
some of these, to Marshall's point, some of these are required by general law. So the Needham History Center Museum, or the local history society, an architect, a realtor, and a property owner from the district, and the select board can increase that up to a certain number. So Marshall, you did correctly point out that those are statutory requirements. And then the select board can increase that by up to 4 members as per this, as per the draft bylaw. So it could incorporate a member of the historical commission, and the select board has some latitude on who those other people might be, given the eventual scope of historical districts or district that it may or may not govern, because part of this bylaw, in addition to forming the Kingsbury Historical District, would also establish a historical district committee, which would be basically the replacement for this study committee should another historical district request be made. That new committee would handle said request and go through this process of drafting, submitting to the planning board, having a public hearing, and going back to town meeting. And every new historical district would have to go through this and be subject to a vote of town meeting.
Yeah. But not every district will necessarily have the same district commission as time goes on.
Perhaps.
You know, should we say have 20 local historic districts someday? We wouldn't have the same historic district commission administering all 20. It could be, there would be some differences there as well. Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah, Jeff.
I didn't get to read, through the whole draft. I read it really quickly, but are we only voting, this is only creating the bylaw, am I correct? That
No.
there'll only be one, is there only one vote on town meeting floor to approve of the bylaw, or are there gonna be 2 votes? So we're gonna be also voting on the district.
Miles, I'm going to refer to you, and my understanding is it was one vote to create both the bylaw and that district in conjunction.
That's correct, Madam Chair.
Yeah, and that future districts can be proposed under the established bylaw, so they would be just for the proposed districts going forward. But they're held together in this first vote.
I didn't quite recall from the training that we went through from the state that I always thought it was a two-stage process, that the bylaw first got approved and then the district.
It's a 2-part process in that you have to have a proposed district when you propose the bylaw. So you can't just say, let's establish the local historic district bylaw and then someday we may have a district. You can only establish it in tandem with a requested district.
All right, then
But it's one vote, but it essentially has 2 parts. In the first case.
Okay.
In this first case.
That
Going
was
forward,
not my recollection, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
I guess I am wrong.
We'll forgive you. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Does anybody else have any new business that they want to bring up? Yeah, Joe.
Just, I don't know who driven by, but the windows are going in the Emery Grover building as we speak.
Yeah.
So getting that much closer to being weather tight.
Yep. Yeah, I think they want to get it closed up and start working on the interiors.
Yeah, they're framing a lot interior already. But
Yeah.
as I drive by it every day, the more and more windows go in every day.
Yeah, it's looking good. It's looking
Yeah.
good. Yeah. Leah, did you have a comment? Did I see your hand go by?
Yeah, I just wanted to quick update or check-in on the Heritage 3 project.
Mhm.
There should be an email in your inbox from a little while ago, Gloria, when you have a chance.
Okay.
If you haven't had a chance to look at it yet, the draft. So just let me know what you think of that, and then hopefully in the next meeting we can bring it to the group and
Okay.
have a little more headway.
Okay, I'll look over that. We'll talk about it. Joe, please add that to the perspective agenda for next time, in case I forget.
Yep, I'm writing it down
Okay.
as we speak.
Great, thank you. Okay, does anybody else have any other business they want to raise? Short night, okay. Then I am going to move that this meeting be adjourned. Do I hear a second?
Second,
Second by Leah. Take a vote. Joe?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Leah?
aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Marshall? Chair votes aye. That's 6-0 with one absence. We will meet again in January. Happy holidays, everybody.
Have a
Good
good night,
night.
everyone.
Happy
Thank you.
holidays.
You too.
And thank you, Miles.